Have you ever wondered why ancient words, written thousands of years ago, still strike at the heart of our modern struggles? Imagine, while technology advances and the world spins faster, there exists a hidden map, a collection of timeless truths that cuts through confusion like a lantern in darkness. The book of Proverbs isn't just a dusty relic, it's a living guide, overflowing with secrets about money, relationships, integrity, and daily decisions. Yet most people glance past these golden nuggets, never realizing how revolutionary their impact could be. Today, you'll step behind the curtain with me. You'll discover why kings, philosophers, and everyday people have clung to these words for wisdom and survival. Few understand how the contrasts of folly and wisdom in Proverbs still shape destinies today, and what you're about to learn will change how you see every choice you make. Are you ready to feel the ancient wisdom pulsing as if it was written for you right now? Don't blink. The guidance you need is just a heartbeat away. Keep watching and unlock the treasures hidden in plain sight, because the answers that can transform your life have been waiting for you all along. Picture this. A dusty street in ancient Jerusalem, the sun beating down over limestone walls, merchants bargaining, children laughing, and hidden behind it all, a wise king seated in his cedar-lined chamber, penning words that will ripple through time. Many know Solomon was celebrated for his unparalleled wisdom, yet few have paused to consider why he poured insights into the slender verses we now call Proverbs. Imagine being summoned into that chamber, just as his counselors and courtiers were, and hearing secrets distilled by God himself. But let's pull back even further. What made wisdom so desperately sought after in the ancient world? You might be picturing stone tablets and scrolls, but the hunger for wisdom wasn't born from idle curiosity, it was survival. In a world of sudden famine, warring nations, and ever-shifting alliances, a single misstep could doom a family or topple a kingdom. Amid this uncertainty, the elders of Israel didn't turn to theories or clever sayings, but to a source of understanding believed to be divinely revealed. Here lies the first revelation, a paradox that crackles through the ages. Proverbs is less a book of rules and more a living dialogue, a call and response between heaven's wisdom and humanity's daily questions. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, Proverbs 1:7 declares, not a tremble of terror, but a reverent awe that opens the mind and unlocks the heart. Many believe that knowledge begins with experience or education, but Proverbs reverses the script. True wisdom flows from a sacred relationship with God himself. Can you feel the tension? When we pick up the book of Proverbs, we're not opening merely a manual. We're unrolling an ancient scroll, inviting us into the throne room of divine counsel. Each short, poetic verse is like a chiseled gem, sparkling with deeper meaning each time you turn it in the light. Wisdom cries aloud in the street, says Proverbs 1:20. In the markets she raises her voice, as if these truths refuse to be caged within temple walls. Wisdom seeks us out. As centuries passed, Israelite parents whispered these sayings over their children before sleep. Merchants etched them into memory as they weighed gold and silver, and weary travelers recited them under star-studded skies. Proverbs was the original life hack, yet rooted in something far deeper than modern self-help. Its concise form conceals complexity. Behind every line, a story. Behind every phrase, a spiritual battle between the way of wisdom and the path of folly. You might be wondering, how did Solomon, son of David, inherit such insight? The biblical account tells us in 1 Kings 3, Solomon, in a dream, was offered by God anything his heart desired: wealth, power, long life, all within reach. But what did he ask for? Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. 1 Kings 3:9. That night, God granted not riches or renown, but wisdom like none before or after. What followed was more than an individual enlightenment. It became a fountain, overflowing into the lives of every generation hungry for guidance. This shows us something profound about the biblical context of Proverbs. Wisdom is not an abstract concept, remote and unattainable. It is pursued, gifted by God, then poured out generously for the benefit of all. Each proverb is a fragment of that divine wisdom, designed to be picked up, turned over, and applied by hands worn from the labor of life. Consider the literary artistry. Proverbs is a tapestry of vivid metaphors, pulsing with images drawn from fields, streams, city gates, and the chaos of everyday life. Like apples of gold in settings of silver is a word spoken in right circumstances, proclaims Proverbs 25:11. Can you picture it? The shimmer, the contrast? The words are chosen for maximum sensory impact, meant to be tasted, seen, and felt deep within. But beneath the poetry, a cosmic drama unfolds. Proverbs is arranged not randomly, but with intent. The opening chapters are framed as a father's urgent plea to his child. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget my words or turn away from them. Proverbs 4:5. This is the language of inheritance, a spiritual legacy more valuable than king's treasures. We're thrust into attention. Will the next generation embrace wisdom's call, or will they be swept away by the seductive pull of folly? Let's step back for a moment. In the ancient Near East, many nations crafted collections of wise maxims, Egypt's instruction of Amenemope, Babylon's Proverbs. Yet what sets the book of Proverbs apart is its relentless focus on the heart. In other traditions, wisdom was craft or cunning. Here it's a relational pursuit, a walk with a present, holy God. This undercurrent is easy to miss, but it's what gives Proverbs its enduring power. Its wisdom isn't just sensible, it's sacred. Perhaps you can feel the weight of these truths pressing against the questions of your own life. Which path am I walking? Whose voice am I following? The same crossroads that faced an Israelite shepherd or merchant echo into our crowded streets and glowing screens. Suddenly, the gap between then and now collapses. Antiquity meets urgency, and the invitation stands open. And yet, from the very beginning, Proverbs dares us to look deeper. You may have noticed that these ancient sayings often contradict what feels natural. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. Intuition screams to rely on experience alone, but the wisdom of Proverbs beckons us onto a higher road, a path charted by faith. Not just by sight. Many have stumbled where sight would lead, but the profound truth is that unseen steps, guided by trust in the eternal, lead to lasting safety. Pause here and imagine the city gates. Elders gathered, disputes being settled, the murmur of voices. Every judgment, every decision hung suspended on the wisdom pulsing from these proverbs. If you were there, hearing them spoken as solutions emerge from spiritual insight, how would you feel? Relief? Curiosity? Maybe, for the first time, a sense that ancient words could cradle tomorrow's hopes. Here's a mini conclusion, an aha moment to consider. Proverbs is the meeting point where God's eternal perspective intersects our daily confusion. That's why these words endure. They don't just offer clever advice. They reveal a divine pattern woven throughout history, always available to those who dare to seek. But this raises an even deeper question, a paradox hiding beneath the surface. If these words are truly divine, why do so many read them, yet fail to unlock their power? Could it be that the real wisdom of Proverbs lies just beyond what most ever see? In the next part, we will journey beneath the surface, uncovering the spiritual insights and theological layers that breathe life into these ancient verses. What you're about to discover will challenge everything you've assumed about wisdom and may just awaken a hunger you never knew you had. Keep watching, because the greatest secrets are yet to be revealed. Imagine peeling back the layers of an ancient tapestry, colors bright as dawn, only to uncover hidden threads, each one humming with spiritual purpose. This is what lies before us as we cross the threshold from the historical into the spiritual. Proverbs not just as wise sayings, but as an invitation into the very heart and mind of God. But here's the mystery. How does a collection of pithy, practical instructions bridge the infinite gap between the temporal and the eternal? Let's begin with a puzzle. Proverbs presents wisdom as a person, Lady Wisdom, crying out in the streets, lifting her voice where the paths meet. Proverbs 1:20-21. Why personify wisdom at all? You may be wondering, is this mere poetic flourish or something more profound? The answer may surprise you. In the Hebrew mind, wisdom wasn't just knowledge applied, but a living, breathing presence, a manifestation of God's very character at work in the world. Consider Proverbs 8, where wisdom declares, "The Lord brought me forth as the first of his works, before his deeds of old. I was there when he set the heavens in place." Suddenly, wisdom isn't just advice. It's woven into the fabric of creation itself. Many believe wisdom is discovered through trial and error, but the profound truth in Proverbs is that true wisdom existed before trial, before error, even before time. Let this image flood your senses. The earth taking form, stars flung across inky blackness, and wisdom, God's own radiant logic, dancing at his side. Then I was constantly at his side. I was filled with delight day after day, rejoicing always in his presence. Proverbs 8:30. Feel the sweep of it. Wisdom is not an accessory to creation, it is its foundation. But here's the tension. If divine wisdom is so grand, why does Proverbs spend so much ink on the most mundane details? How to speak, how to treat neighbors, how to handle money. Maybe you're wondering, can cosmic wisdom really care about my everyday choices? Yet this is where theology explodes into life. The God who spoke galaxies into being cares about how you speak to your colleague, raise your children, or choose your friends. This invites us to a spiritual understanding that's almost scandalous, a God who is not only transcendent, high and lifted up, but also immanent, intimately involved in the smallest moments. Proverbs becomes a bridge, uniting heaven's logic and earth's chaos, eternity's vision and today's decision. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. Proverbs 16:3. In this single verse, we encounter a collision, a synergy between divine sovereignty and human responsibility. Did you notice the rhythm? Every proverb pulses with tension. There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. Proverbs 14:12. We are constantly led to the crossroads, trusting our own sight or leaning into God's wisdom. This deepens the journey, for the book of Proverbs subtly introduces us to the great biblical paradox. God dignifies us with choice, yet guides us by his Spirit. Here's an insight that few notice. Proverbs divides humanity into two archetypes, the wise and the fool. At surface level, this sounds simplistic, but listen carefully. Proverbs doesn't describe the fool as unintelligent, but as someone spiritually resistant, deaf to wisdom's call. The way of fools seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. Proverbs 12:15. Feel the weight of that. The difference isn't mental sharpness, but the posture. Of the heart, pride or humility, self-reliance or surrender. Let's pause for a breath, smell the incense, hear the murmur of ancient prayers. In this sacred atmosphere, Proverbs points to an unsettling truth. Wisdom begins not with self-accomplishment, but with the fear of the Lord. Proverbs 9:10. Not trembling in terror, but standing in awe, recognizing God's greatness and our dependence. This fear is the gateway, the key that unlocks not only insight, but transformation. But there's an even deeper spiritual layer. The New Testament reveals what Proverbs always hinted: wisdom is ultimately a person. We catch our breath with Paul's words in 1 Corinthians 1:24, where he describes Christ as the power of God and the wisdom of God. Suddenly, all the riddles and paradoxes of Proverbs converge in Jesus himself, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Colossians 2:3. Do you sense the magnitude? The very wisdom that ordered creation, whispered to Solomon, and shaped the Proverbs, now walks among us, clothed in flesh. This is a spiritual insight that reframes everything. When we seek wisdom in the pages of Proverbs, we are really being drawn to the ultimate wisdom, Christ. Every warning, every promise, every contrast between the path of life and the path of death points like an arrow to him. What happened at the cross, the world's greatest paradox, looked like foolishness to humanity, but became the ultimate wisdom for all who believe. God was pleased through the foolishness of what was preached to save those who believe. 1 Corinthians 1:21. You might be asking yourself now, if wisdom is so spiritual, so Christ-centered, why is it so practical? This is the genius of biblical spirituality. There's no split between sacred and secular. To walk wisely is to mirror God's heart in every act, to taste eternity in the everyday. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. Proverbs 13:20. Suddenly, choosing your company is not just a social strategy, but a step toward or away from the very character of God. A mini conclusion unfolds here. The more we perceive the layers of Proverbs, the more we realize wisdom is a spiritual inheritance, offered freely yet costly if ignored. It's possible to memorize every line and miss the heart, or to hear one proverb, surrender, and find life changed forever. Here another subtle paradox emerges. Biblical wisdom is given, yet must be received. It is a lamp, but you must choose to light it, a feast, but you must pull up a chair. Can you feel the urgency? Lady Wisdom's call is not passive. She is urgent, persistent, at times even louder than the warning voices of folly. How long will you who are simple love your simple ways? How long will mockers delight in mockery and fools hate knowledge? Proverbs 1:22. Wisdom pleads from the crossroads of your life. Imagine standing at a busy intersection at dusk, city lights flickering, options everywhere, voices calling, choices surging. Wisdom is not a whisper lost in the noise, but a shout that cuts through confusion, offering clarity and direction. You begin to see that every proverb is a signpost, marking the path home. Before we step forward, reflect on this. The spiritual power of Proverbs is not merely to inform, but to transform. It contains the mind of God offered for your practical life, for your next step, your next word, your very next thought. It's not just advice, it's invitation, promise, and challenge all at once. But as our spiritual sight sharpens, a deeper question rises from the shadows. How does this ancient, divine wisdom transform our real modern dilemmas, messy relationships, moral choices, the search for meaning and purpose? Is there a bridge from the heights of spiritual revelation to the ground level of daily living? What you're about to discover next will unfold the most surprising connections between the ancient paths of Proverbs and today's tangled realities. You'll see wisdom come alive in stories, decisions, and the pulse of life right now. Don't look away, because the real adventure is only just beginning. Step with me from the scroll-lined halls of ancient Israel into the clutter and chaos of your own daily life. Imagine your smartphone buzzes with new messages, deadlines press in, relationships ebb and flow, choices pile up like traffic at rush hour. Amidst this whirlwind, there's a quiet, steady pulse, the echo of Proverbs, still alive and urgent. Could it be that wisdom's call is not drowned out by modern noise, but has never been more needed than right now? Here's where the mystery sharpens into reality. The wisdom of Proverbs is not trapped within temple walls or dusty libraries. It is designed to leap across centuries, to settle directly into boardrooms, classrooms, kitchens, and city streets. The first shock comes with its bold practicality. Listen, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15:1. 7 simple words, yet in the heat of an argument, at work or at home, this ancient principle can change the entire temperature of a room. Imagine actually pausing and choosing gentleness over venom. What would happen to your next conflict? Pause and sense the discomfort, because this is where Proverbs subverts modern wisdom. Many believe that dominance and clever words win the day, but the profound truth is this: restraint and humility have the power to redirect even the fiercest storm. Walk through an office on Monday morning, or within the tense stillness of a family disagreement. Suddenly, these ancient sayings become pathways out of chaos. You might be wondering, but aren't Proverbs just old sayings, too simple for our complex world? Let's test that idea. Consider finances, one of the great stresses of our age. Dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. Proverbs 13:11. In a world hungry for instant results and viral successes, here's a rebel whisper: faithful stewardship, patient growth, and integrity outlast every pyramid scheme and get rich quick promise. Every financial collapse, every cloud of debt often begins when people discard this wisdom, trusting the mirage instead of the slow bloom of godly diligence. Or what about words, the currency of our digital lives? Proverbs 18:21 stuns with clarity. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Imagine scrolling through social media, where a single post can heal or devastate, unite or divide. Now picture weighing your words, knowing that each has the potential to plant seeds of hope or cast shadows of bitterness into the world. Can you feel the stakes rising? Ancient wisdom pulses beneath every keystroke. Let's travel into a modern scenario: a teenager tempted by the pressure of the crowd, a worker considering cutting corners, a single parent drowning in bills, a leader forced to make a high-stakes decision before the world is watching. Proverbs isn't silent here. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Proverbs 27:12. This isn't just caution, it's strategic foresight. The same insight that protected shepherds from wolves now shields young people from toxic friendships, workers from ethical pitfalls, parents from self-defeat, and leaders from catastrophic missteps. Everywhere you look, the wisdom of Proverbs breaks out in story form. A woman builds credibility at her job, not by playing power games, but by living out Proverbs 22:1. A good name is more desirable than great riches. And her integrity opens doors no networking scheme ever could. A young man resists the seductive voice of compromise, remembering, the way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. Proverbs 4:19. He sees beyond the glamour to the ruin beneath, his course set by unseen principles. Here's the rhythm of everyday miracles, seen in humble places. Think of the manager who chooses transparency with employees. Honest scales and balances belong to the Lord. All the weights in the bag are of his making. Proverbs 16:11. 11. Or the parent who, despite exhaustion, teaches their child to answer cruelty with kindness, planting seeds for a lifetime harvest. Or the friend who listens first, speaks softly, and helps another see light through darkness. Yet there's tension here, a gnawing sense that the wisdom of Proverbs runs against the grain of our culture. Our world prizes quick fixes, instant gratification, and clever shortcuts. But Proverbs is relentless. It champions patience, discipline, humility, and the slow shaping of character. Sluggards do not plough in season, so at harvest time they look but find nothing. Proverbs 24. The jolt is unmistakable. There are no shortcuts to a wise and fruitful life. The disciplines that seem least impressive, honest work, careful speech, delayed gratification, are actually the foundation blocks for joy and security. This brings us to a modern paradox. Many seek fulfillment at the far edge of achievement, yet Proverbs centers blessing in the ordinary rhythms of work, family, friendship, and worship. Better a small serving of vegetables with love than a fattened calf with hatred. Proverbs 15:17. Pause. Let those words sink in. In an age where more is often mistaken for better, divine wisdom reminds us the presence of love, peace, and integrity outweighs every outward gain. Sense the spiritual undertone gently rising. Proverbs instructs us not simply in skillful living, but holy living. Each principle is both a practical tool and a spiritual invitation. To treat the poor with dignity, whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord. Proverbs 19:17. To forgive quickly, to keep promises, to walk in humility. These are not just clever habits, but doorways to encountering God in everyday moments. Now imagine a day lived entirely through the lens of Proverbs. You wake asking God for direction. You choose your words carefully with your spouse or children, seeking not to win, but to understand. At work, you decide not to gossip, knowing whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. Proverbs 17:9. You resist the urge to retaliate, remembering, do not say, I'll pay you back for this wrong. Wait for the Lord, and he will avenge you. Proverbs 20:22. At dusk you reflect, not on all you acquired, but on the peace within your heart. A quiet confirmation that ancient wisdom still shapes the present. Here's the aha moment. Proverbs bridges the divine and the daily, turning common choices into uncommon opportunities for blessing. Wise living, it turns out, is not about spectacular moments, but transformative faithfulness in the small things. Each decision, humble as it may seem, holds the possibility of tilting your future toward light or shadow. But just as clarity dawns, a deeper question emerges, one that punctures the illusion of self-sufficiency. How do we continually choose wisdom in a world so expertly skilled at distraction, compromise, and relentless pressure? As technology races ahead and the noise of culture crescendos, is the book of Proverbs enough? Or does it point to something, someone who walks with us into tomorrow's unknowns? Don't look away. In the next part, we'll unravel the prophetic strands hidden in Proverbs, the hints that echo beyond the present, drawing us toward promises and warnings that whisper of future destinies. What you'll discover will not only challenge your understanding of time and purpose, but unveil how today's pursuit of wisdom is shaping tomorrow's legacy. The next step on this journey is waiting. Stay with me, because the greatest revelations are still to come. Close your eyes for a moment and allow time itself to dissolve. Dusty footprints giving way to city lights, your world rippling out into the unknown. Proverbs, with its ancient voice, doesn't simply echo backwards. It sends tremors forward, speaking into futures not yet lived, destinies not yet walked. What if these pithy sayings contain not only wisdom for today, but blueprints and warnings for the world unfolding before us? Here lies a new paradox. Most see Proverbs as retrospective, a handbook for surviving the present, but tucked in every line is a prophetic impulse, a gentle, urgent foretelling. The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. Proverbs 4:18. Can you feel the anticipation crackling? It's more than advice. It's a vision of a life that grows, a future that unfolds in radiance. But what about the flip side? But the way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. The contrast is dramatic. To embrace wisdom is to set your feet on a path toward increasing clarity. To reject it is to drift toward confusion, stumbling in shadows of your own making. You might wonder, does this only speak to individuals? Or does Proverbs stretch its roots into the soil of nations, generations, even history itself? Proverbs 14:34 declares, "Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin condemns any people." Pause with that for a heartbeat. These words, penned for a small kingdom in the ancient world, reverberate through policy meetings, parliaments, and Senate chambers even now. Societies built on justice, humility, and integrity rise like the dawn, while those abandoning wisdom spiral into cycles of collapse and regret. Suddenly, Proverbs pivots from the mirror to the map. It charts not just how you live, but what becomes of your family, your community, your nation, your world, the very patterns that preserve a house. By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. Proverbs 24:3 also sustain civilizations and echo through the annals of history. The wisdom or folly of today's choices grows fruit for tomorrow's harvest. And yet, the prophetic core of Proverbs goes deeper still. Within its pages, there is a haunting awareness of a coming reckoning, of divine justice that is patient but never passive. There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end, it leads to death. Proverbs 14:12. In a world obsessed with trends, cleverness, and self-invention, could it be that the future belongs quietly but inexorably to those who align themselves with God's design? Here is a mystery that stirs the soul. Proverbs often deals not in if, but in when. When the storm has swept by, the wicked are gone, but the righteous stand firm forever. Proverbs 10:25. Consider this image, the storms of history, of culture, of conflict. While many scramble for shelter built on sand, Proverbs reveals a rock beneath. Wisdom, righteousness, humility, a foundation that endures whatever comes next. But there is more. Peer between the verses and you'll find something astonishing, echoes of messianic hope, anticipation growing like a sacred pulse. Proverbs 8, where wisdom describes her place at creation's birth, reads like a whisper from eternity, remembering, "Before the mountains were settled, before the hills, I was brought forth. And then I was beside him as a master craftsman." Christians through the centuries have seen here not just poetic personification, but glimpses of Christ, the very wisdom by which all things are made, the one into whom all prophecy, all longing, all wisdom converges. This is not accidental. Proverbs, in its quiet unfolding, calls us to look beyond today, to see the hidden thread tying all of time together. As the world grapples with uncertainty, anxiety, and the unceasing rush of innovation, there is an invitation to root yourself in the ancient that leads to the eternal. The wisdom of Proverbs is not old-fashioned, it is future-proof, a pathway winding through volatility into the unshakable. Let's make this tangible. Modern experts forecast economic crashes, technological revolutions, and global shifts. But Proverbs advises, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. Proverbs 15:22. What if, instead of riding every new fad or fleeing at every alert, leaders, political, business, even spiritual, were to seek wisdom, listen for God's voice, and build on justice? What would transform if the ethics of ancient Israel became the standard for tomorrow's world? And zoom in further. Your family's legacy, the generations to come, are being shaped not by the volatility of the times, but by the wisdom you plant today. The righteous leave a legacy to their children's children. Proverbs 13:22 declares, each choice, each act of faith or integrity, building tomorrow's inheritance. In a world obsessed with quick succession and fleeting fame, the wisdom of Proverbs offers a slow-burning legacy, one that outlasts every headline. But the most urgent prophetic warning in Proverbs is reserved for pride. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. History shudders with the rise and collapse of the arrogant nations and people who believe they could outrun or outthink consequence. The wisdom of Proverbs pulses with mercy, yet never flinches from truth. What you build with pride will crumble, but what you build with humility and faith endures. As technology races, as morality twists, as global voices swell, the questions grow sharper. Will we build our future on the sand of novelty or root it in the bedrock of God's wisdom? More personally, how will you navigate tomorrow's uncertainties, the ones you can't yet name, without the anchor Proverbs provides? Are you preparing your heart for the storms ahead or hoping to improvise when they arrive? Here is your aha for the future. Proverbs, whispered by the Holy Spirit, is less about knowledge and more about preparation. It forges resilience, clarity, and courage for whatever comes next. Wisdom is not just a survival skill. It is a prophetic posture, living today in light of tomorrow's horizons. But don't let go of the tension just yet. If the wisdom of Proverbs prepares us for what's to come, how do we move from theory to living anticipation? Are there ways to deepen our spiritual connection so that wisdom isn't just information, but transformation, readiness, and hope? Imagine living each day as if you're not just reacting, but prophetically shaping the future with every wise step. In the next part, we'll venture deeper, unpacking exactly how the wisdom of Proverbs strengthens spiritual bonds and equips you to not merely withstand, but to thrive and flourish as tomorrow dawns. What if the next revelation is the key to living with unshakable assurance, no matter what the future holds? Stay with me, for the most personal and empowering discoveries are just ahead. Imagine for a moment stepping out of the current of everyday routine, the emails, the voices, the endless to-dos, and entering a place where time itself slows. The air is thick with expectation, as if wisdom herself draws near, inviting you to sit, to listen, to truly receive. The wisdom of Proverbs, which began as a series of ancient sayings, now pulses with a deeper ache, a longing not only to shape decisions, but to transform the very fabric of your relationship with God. Here, the Proverbs are not merely instructions, they are whispers, invitations, open doors into intimacy with the divine. But how do you cross that threshold? Many believe spirituality to be measured by lofty experiences or dazzling revelations. Yet the profound truth found within Proverbs is this: the deep, unshakable things of God are cultivated in the quiet and the ordinary, through a rhythm of daily alignment and surrender. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. Can you feel the invitation in those words? They don't just offer a rule, they urge you to rest, to let go, to let your soul breathe in holy dependence. Now imagine the morning sun slanting across your table, illuminating a single open page. Your heart is busy, questions swirling about the future, your family, your worth. In this hush, the old words come alive, not just with answers, but with presence. The Lord's curse is on the house of the wicked, but he blesses the home of the righteous. He holds success in store for the upright. He is a shield to those whose walk is blameless. Proverbs 3:33-7. Suddenly, you're not just memorizing wisdom, you're sitting in the company of the wise one himself. There's a profound paradox here. Proverbs calls us into connection through humility. To truly receive wisdom, we must acknowledge that our best strength, our keenest intellect, is simply not enough. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. Proverbs 3:7. This humility is not humiliation. It's holy space cleared for God's presence to dwell. It's the heart as open field, turned over and softened by surrender, ready for seeds only heaven can plant. And just as you begin to orient your heart in this relational posture, Proverbs heightens the tension. Consider this, for the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Proverbs 2:6. The Spirit of God is not distant, doled out in rare flashes, but is continually speaking, guiding, prompting, inspiring in the mundane and the marvelous. The ancient Israelites pictured wisdom as breath, life, the wind of God moving through the streets of their lives. Today, through the indwelling Spirit, we're invited into ongoing dialogue, a sacred partnership, not merely an intermittent consultation. You might be wondering, how does one move from simply reading these verses to truly communing with God through them? The answer unfolds gradually, like dawn. It begins by slowing down, receiving these words not merely as advice, but as invitations to contemplation. Imagine meditating on, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:23. You let those words echo in your spirit throughout the day, watching them. Infuse your reactions, your choices, your prayers. Over time, the wisdom of Proverbs isn't just a voice you visit, it becomes the undercurrent of your inner life, gently guiding you back to God again and again. Feel the rhythm. Wisdom draws you into conversation. Conversation deepens into relationship. Relationship transforms into trust. Proverbs dares us to risk radical honesty before God, to lay bare our anxieties, to bring our uncertainties into the light. As you do, you discover that his wisdom is not just for the right answers. It is an open hand in every valley and a lamp for each decision. When you walk, your steps will not be hampered. When you run, you will not stumble. Proverbs 4:12. The spiritual journey becomes less about frantic striving, more about the peace that comes when God himself walks beside you. This leads to an aha moment. Spiritual connectedness, as described in Proverbs, is not merely a mystical state, it is a way of moving through the world. It infuses your work, saturates your relationships, transforms your solitude. In listening, in obedience, in real surrender, you discover that wisdom is a person who desires to be sought and known. The veil grows thin between your ordinary day and the holy. Let's ground this in lived reality. Picture a person burdened with decisions, weary from striving. Each morning, instead of going first to news feeds or to-do lists, they kneel, open Proverbs, and pray for wisdom. Slowly, their heart unclenches. As they move through the day, subtle changes unfold. A kind word where there would have been irritation, patience replacing panic, a gentle no to temptation, anchored in a person without self-control is like a city with broken-down walls. Proverbs 25:28. Spiritual connection proves not just comforting, but powerfully practical. Now consider a community, small, unseen, imperfect, gathering around these same words, praying together, holding each other to God's standard. The wisdom of Proverbs becomes their shared language, their code of peace, the foundation of their unity. What would change if every home, every friendship, every church moved in step with this divine rhythm? The Spirit-breathed wisdom that shaped prophets and kings would quietly transform neighborhoods, workplaces, even cities. But the depths of Proverbs stretch further still. The text subtly opens the door to awe, a sense of God's grandeur that quiets pride and stirs wonder. By wisdom the Lord laid the earth's foundations, by understanding he set the heavens in place. Proverbs 3:19. To live with this truth always before you is to let each sunrise, each encounter, each act of service become an act of worship. This is the antidote to cynicism and hurry, the recognition that every ordinary moment is thick with the presence of the God who speaks through wisdom. You might feel a gentle challenge rising. If wisdom is so available, why do so many settle for surface living, skimming advice but missing the discovery? Proverbs answers with relentless invitation, echoing again and again. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget my words or turn away from them. Proverbs 4:5. The next step is deeper surrender, not just reading, but welcoming these words into the marrow of your being and allowing them to press you ever closer to the one who gave them. Here's the true gift. Wisdom greets you in solitude, but it also weaves your life into the tapestry of God's people. It anchors you when storms howl, lifts you when hope flickers, draws you into community marked by peace over competition and love over fear. The Spirit, speaking through Proverbs, deepens your connection to God and to others, making your life an open channel for divine light to shine into the world. But now, allow the question to build, the tension to return. If wisdom moves from solitude to shared life, from private prayer to public practice, what does it actually look like to walk this path together? How do we make the wisdom of Proverbs the heartbeat of our families, friendships, and churches, not just a solitary song, but a communal symphony? What you're about to witness in the next part will unlock the secrets of shared faith, revealing how the spiritual fire in one soul can ignite a holy movement within a whole community. Stay with me, the greatest discoveries are yet to unfold. Imagine yourself standing at a crossroads, the landscape hazy, choices stretching in every direction, the quiet voice of wisdom threading through the morning mist. You've glimpsed the depth and beauty of Proverbs, sensed the invitation into deeper spiritual connection, and now a pressing question rises in your soul. How, in practical and tangible terms, do I begin to live out this ancient wisdom? How do I move from inspiration to transformation, not in the abstract, but within the fabric of my everyday life? Many believe that spiritual growth is reserved for the brilliant, the disciplined, or the few who seem to glow with effortless faith. But the profound truth of Proverbs is stunningly accessible. Step by step, moment by moment, the way of wisdom opens to all who seek, ask, and turn their hearts toward the giver. Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding. Proverbs 3:13 promises, a blessing not shrouded in mystery, but revealed through sacred practical steps. Let's begin with the first burning principle, intentional pursuit. Tune your ear to wisdom and concentrate on understanding. Cry out for insight and ask for understanding. Search for them as you would for silver. Seek them like hidden treasures. Proverbs 2:2-4. Feel the urgency. True growth involves deliberate seeking, not passive hoping. This means carving out time each day, even in the midst of chaos, to open the Word, to pray, to sit with the truths of God, like a miner searching for gold in the soil of your soul. Visualize your morning, a cup of coffee steaming in hand. You open Proverbs. Don't rush. Read aloud, letting the words form on your lips, asking God to point His light upon one verse. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Proverbs 4:23. Pause, reflect. What is flowing from your heart today? Is it gratitude, bitterness, restlessness, peace? Write it down. Let wise living begin in honest inventory. Next, sense the rhythm of repetition. Proverbs is not a book to be conquered in one sitting, but a companion for a lifetime. The ancients returned again and again, reciting Proverbs until they seeped into memory. Try this. Choose one proverb each week. Write it where you'll see it, in your journal, on your phone, taped to your bathroom mirror. Whisper it when worry rises. Meditate on it while driving. Breathe it out in prayer before sleep. Bind them upon your heart forever. Fasten them around your neck. Proverbs 6:21. Repetition is not boredom, it's cultivation, planting truth so deeply it cannot be uprooted. But there is a paradoxical step. Embrace correction. Most flinch from discipline, but Proverbs insists, do not despise the Lord's discipline and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves, as a father the son he delights in. Proverbs 3:11-12. Growth demands listening when God, or even trusted friends, point toward blind spots. Welcome feedback, examine your patterns, and let correction be a chisel that shapes your character rather than a lash that wounds your pride. Now let's anchor wisdom in action. Knowledge crystallizes not in comprehension, but in application. Each principle is like a seed, faithful only when planted. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. James 1:22, echoing Proverbs. Practice speaking gently when tempers flare. Choose generosity over gain. Take small risks for what is right, even when it costs. Let every action, no matter how minor, become an altar. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:6. The mundane, lived with intention, becomes the sacred. And here's another guiding star. Choose your companions wisely. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Proverbs 13:20. Growth is accelerated or stunted depending on your circle. Seek mentors who walk in godly wisdom. Share struggles and victories with trusted friends. Open yourself to accountability. True wisdom rarely grows in isolation. Community sharpens, challenges, and even heals. But you might be wondering, how do I sustain this pursuit when discouragement or distraction hit? Proverbs answers, attend to your foundation. The name of the Lord is a fortified tower. The righteous run to it and are safe. Proverbs 18:10. Make prayer your refuge, not just your routine. Run to God when weary, not only when strong. Weave gratitude throughout your day. Notice each small gift and voice thanks. Gratitude, the hidden marrow of wisdom, nurtures resilience and keeps your heart tender. Let's slow down and make this personal. Imagine facing a difficult choice at work or within your family. Pause. Instead of reacting, you recall, a gentle answer turns away wrath, or the way of fools seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. You pray, inviting God's insight. You seek counsel before acting, and then you move forward with humility and confidence. The ancient words have become living energy, guiding your next step. Here's your aha moment. Spiritual growth is not a rarefied achievement, but a lifelong series of small, faithful steps, each one building trust, discipline, and joy. Your transformation is painted not in grand gestures, but in daily, consistent realignment with God's wisdom. The gentle words spoken, the temptation resisted, the prayer whispered in the quiet. But the journey does not end with personal discipline or wisdom alone. There is a hidden energy unleashed when growth becomes shared, when the sparks of individual pursuit ignite a community, a family, a church. Imagine what could happen if households, workplaces, and neighborhoods all began to orbit around the enduring wisdom of Proverbs. Yet before we step into the realm of shared faith, another question presses in. What does it actually look like when a community begins to embody these principles? How does the wisdom of Proverbs, lived out together, create a force that transforms, heals, and redeems the world around us? In the next part, your view will widen as we uncover the power of community and shared faith experiences, seeing how wisdom multiplies when hearts unite in pursuit. Don't miss this, because what you'll witness next could be the spark that sets your world ablaze with God's living wisdom. Imagine the stillness of early morning. For a moment, hush settles over a town, as if all creation pauses in expectation. Now, let that silence be broken, first by a low voice in prayer, then another and another, coast to coast, continent to continent, a rising chorus. This is what Proverbs envisions when wisdom is not just personal but shared, spiritual renewal surging through the fabric of community like living water bringing dry earth to life. At first glance, Proverbs often reads as private counsel, "My son, pay attention to my wisdom," Proverbs 5:1. But what happens when these verses are not recited in isolation, but become the unifying thread in a tapestry of relationships, households, churches, entire cities? What if the ancient wisdom meant to steady one soul becomes the heartbeat of the many? There is a profound, often overlooked truth. Wisdom is most powerful when multiplied. Let's trace this living current. In ancient Israel, wisdom was not a solitary pursuit. The Proverbs were chanted at family tables, debated by elders at the city gate, sung under the stars in the company of kin and neighbor. These words created a common language, shared codes of honor, justice, restraint, and trust. Can you picture it? A community where trust isn't just expected but cultivated, where faith's quiet roots anchor every bond. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Proverbs 27:17. Pause and feel that image, the hiss of blade against blade, the mutual effort, the sharpening pain that produces brilliance. In a world where independence is idolized, Proverbs dares us to believe that our best selves only emerge in the company of others. It's the wise friend who gently warns before we wander off course. It's the spiritual sibling who sees beyond our mask, who reminds us of the word when we forget, who mourns and celebrates with us, echoing, "A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity." Proverbs 17:17. But the tension lingers. Why is it so hard to find or build such community today? Many believe technology connects us, yet our souls are parched for genuine belonging. The wisdom of Proverbs cuts through the illusion. Whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. Proverbs 18:1. Connection is both our design and our discipline. True community demands vulnerability, patience, repeated forgiveness, and the courage to both give and receive wise counsel. Imagine a small group gathered in a living room, the air rich with laughter, honesty, and the scent of shared meals. They commit, week after week, to live out wisdom together, confessing faults, dreaming, wrestling with Proverbs' promises and challenges. An argument simmers, wounds are exposed, and yet grace interrupts. Love prospers when a fault is forgiven, but dwelling on it separates close friends. Proverbs 17:9. In that holy moment, wisdom is no longer theory. It becomes flesh, palpable and redemptive. A fractured family finds healing. A discouraged leader senses hope. A lonely wanderer finally feels at home. Let's broaden the lens. Whole congregations take Proverbs to heart. Businesses operate with fairness because honest scales and balances belong to the Lord. Proverbs 16:11. Schools train children to choose diligence over shortcuts, humility over pride, for the Lord detests all the proud of heart. Proverbs 16:5. Neighborhoods transform as neighbors look out for one another, anchored in the wisdom that the mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. Proverbs 10:11. The ripple effect is astonishing. What begins as one life shaped by wisdom flows outward, reweaving the social fabric. But don't miss the paradox. The deepest wounds and the highest celebrations still take place in community. Proverbs is not naive about the challenges. It warns that a gossip betrays a confidence, but a trustworthy person keeps a secret. Proverbs 11:13. And that envy rots the bones. Proverbs 14:30. So, the greatest victories are not when everything is smooth, but when truth is spoken in love and trust is slowly, stubbornly rebuilt. Here, spiritual growth is collective, each life lifting another, old mistakes guiding new mercies. Sense the movement. Wisdom catalyzes unity. It forges accountability, creates generosity, mends what arrogance would destroy. When one weeps, all feel it. When one rejoices, laughter and light multiply. Even discipline becomes communal, a shared shield against self-destruction. Rebuke the wise and they will love you. Proverbs 9:8. In such a fellowship, wounds are honest, healing is possible, and joy is fiercely guarded. You might be wondering, where does this journey end? What happens when a community, not just an individual, surrenders to God's wisdom? Proverbs hints at a destiny. By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. Through knowledge its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. Proverbs 24:3-4. Not simply material riches, but the treasure of stories rewritten, brokenness restored, generations changed. Here's an aha moment for the soul. The full potential of Proverbs is unlocked only together. Alone, wise living steadies your days. Together, it transforms a people. Wisdom leaps from page to practice, from conversation to culture, from one to many, until Christ's grace saturates streets as well as hearts. But now, feel the last twist of tension. If shared wisdom is powerful, how do we keep it alive? How do real people, with fears and failures, keep the ancient flame burning in a world of distraction and division? The answer rests in the power of story. Your story, woven into God's, echoing through generations. In the next part, you will witness how personal testimony and transformative encounters breathe fresh life into the wisdom of Proverbs, making it unforgettable and irresistible. Don't miss what happens next. The journey is moving from principle to legacy, and your place in the story is about to emerge. Imagine for a moment that it's just you and the silence, no rush, no voices, only the gentle ticking of time and the quiet invitation to look within. The wisdom of Proverbs, so often spoken in the plural, now turns gently toward the singular. Your story, your crossroads, your journey through shadows and sunrise. This is where wisdom ceases to be theory and blazes into testimony, where old words ignite new beginnings and transformation takes on a name, a face, a hope. You might be surprised at how the journey begins. Many think real change comes in a flash, a grand moment of revelation, but the deep, lasting wisdom so gently promised in Proverbs usually breaks in through ordinary days, mornings of grief or quiet victories, decisions made in secret and silent prayers offered when no one sees. The purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out. Proverbs 20:5. Can you feel the mystery? Your life, with all its twists and paradoxes, is the hidden current where God's wisdom is waiting to surface. Let's open the pages of real lives transformed. Picture a young woman named Sarah, haunted by anxiety, always searching for the next perfect move. Her world is spinning with constant comparison, her heart chained by the fear of not measuring up. One day, exhausted, she stumbles across Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. She lets these words linger, repeating them as quiet armor. Slowly, a shift begins. She practices surrender, choosing trust over control, one trembling step at a time. Her anxiety doesn't always vanish, but she wakes to find peace sitting quietly at the table where only worry used to wait. What transformed her? Not a miracle in the sky, but wisdom lived and believed, reshaping the contours of her soul. Now consider James, a successful executive, failing silently inside. He knows the hollow echo of applause and the ache of secrets. When a business deal tempts him toward compromise, Proverbs 11:3 confronts him. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity. The old ways call for a quick win, but he chooses honesty instead. The fallout is real: disappointment, tension, lost profit. But beneath it, a deeper foundation forms. His story shifts from image to substance, and years later, when his children ask about what matters most, he quietly shares the proverb that saved not just his career, but his self-respect. Integrity is no longer an ideal. It becomes the untold legacy he passes on. Let's not turn away from pain, because wisdom does not. Maria, a widow, faces bitter loneliness in the echoing house where years once teemed with laughter. She reads, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life." Proverbs 13:12. In her mourning, she learns that hope sometimes grows slowly, roots pressing down even in sorrow. She begins inviting others in, sharing soup and stories, finding pieces of joy in the gentle wisdom of listening. Her pain becomes a wellspring, and in giving away comfort, she tastes again the sweetness of life. Perhaps your own story is threaded with failure. Proverbs' wisdom meets you here too. Though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. Proverbs 24:16. Picture David, whose anger almost shattered his marriage. He finds this verse on a night when shame threatens to drown him. Instead of giving up, he stumbles toward humility, owning his mistakes, confessing out loud to the wife he wounded. Restoration doesn't come in an instant, but each day he revisits the old words, letting ancient wisdom tutor his actions. Gentler words, slower reactions, a heart willing to be remade. Their story is not perfect, but it turns toward hope, lit by the promise that every fall is a chance to rise by God's grace. Pause and listen. Do you notice the pattern? The wisdom of Proverbs is not a fence but a door. It doesn't bind with guilt, it frees with possibility. It offers a mirror, not just to what needs changing, but to what God can redeem. Its power is verified not in the absence of struggle, but in transformed responses, quiet victories, and lives no one thought could change. But this is more than just testimony. It is reflection, your personal holy audit with the God who sees through all pretense. What proverbs have whispered in your ear lately? Where have you ignored wisdom's call, and where have you, perhaps falteringly, obeyed? Take a moment in this silence. Let old regrets surface, not to crush, but to name what needs healing. Allow small victories to gather. Moments of patience, words withheld, integrity chosen. Over expedience, these are the seeds of wisdom sown in ordinary soil. Can you see the transformation? Perhaps it's subtle. You wake processing disappointment through the gentle filter of "a cheerful heart is good medicine," Proverbs 17:22. Or you resist gossip because the one who guards their mouth preserves their life, Proverbs 13:3. As you reflect, you find the dividing line, the person you were and the person grace, through a string of ancient sayings, has helped you become. And perhaps, just perhaps, Your story is meant to become a proverb for someone else. Imagine your honest account shared over coffee with a struggling friend, or woven into prayer for a child, or spoken in a gathering where others wonder if change is possible. There is a profound, secret power. Your small story of transformation might be the wisdom that shifts another life. Like the Proverbs themselves, it multiplies, radiating outward, rippling through unseen circles. This is where individual reflection meets communal legacy. As you record what God has done, as you share how wisdom has shaped you, flaws and all, you help turn the wisdom of Proverbs from ancient text to living epistle, engraved not on stone, but in the flesh of hearts. Here's the aha for your soul. The greatest witness to wisdom's power is a life quietly, stubbornly transformed. When you pause, reflect, and remember, you see not just your journey, but the continuous, redemptive work of God. The book is still being written, in actions, in reconciliations, in forgiveness released, in hope rebuilt. But as this series of revelations draws to a close, the deepest question rises: what will you do with the wisdom you've received? Will you tuck it away as insight, or let it ignite new choices and deeper trust? How might your story, in all its mess and wonder, serve as a lamp for those who follow? Don't let this be the end. The journey of wisdom is cyclical. Reflection breeds humility. Humility opens new wisdom. Wisdom sparks fresh transformation. Open your heart, because the next chapter of Proverbs has your name on the page. The ancient call is still echoing. Get wisdom, get understanding. Proverbs 4:5. The world is waiting to see what God's wisdom, alive in everyday lives, will look like next. And so the adventure continues. Will you answer the call? And you sit here now, having journeyed with me through the ancient pathways of Proverbs. Pause and recognize the ground you've covered. Together, we have traced threads thousands of years old, stepped into the shoes of kings and commoners, listened for the heartbeat of wisdom in whispered prayers, daily struggles, and dawn-lit hope. We have seen how these brief, poetic sayings hold timeless power, shaped not only for the challenges of ancient cities, but for the pulsating, ever-shifting complexity of the world you and I face today. Now we can clearly see that the wisdom of Proverbs is not a relic, nor merely a set of rigid rules or clever slogans. It is a living pattern, a divine tapestry, woven into the back and forth of human experience. Every proverb holds a key, not just to knowledge, but to the transformation of your character, your relationships, your destiny. When we bring all these truths together, an extraordinary revelation unfolds. The ancient pursuit of wisdom is, at its core, the invitation of God Himself, beckoning you to step out of reactive living and into a journey of depth, meaning, and abundance. Many live by instinct, swayed by the winds of popular opinion or momentary feeling, but you're invited to something radically different, a life anchored not by circumstance, but by clarity, a life where every choice is illuminated by the light of heaven's counsel. The contrasts ring louder with each step. The world offers shortcuts and noise, but God offers you the slow, steady harvest of character. The crowd chooses expedience, the wise build for generations. Let's gather these precious discoveries and turn them into a lens, a new way to see yourself, others, and God. Proverbs has shown us that true wisdom flourishes in humility, discipline, and community. Wisdom does not crush you with guilt, but calls you forward in possibility. In these verses we find not only instructions for speech or finances or friendship, but the sacred presence of a God who desires your wholeness in every facet of your life. Feel the spiritual crescendo rising. This is not just about doing better, it is about entering the current of God's Spirit, letting wisdom renew your mind, soften your heart, and direct your steps. Imagine for a moment What would your life look like if you woke each day ready to seek wisdom as your first and finest treasure? Imagine the peace that would grow in your home if gentleness became your secret weapon, the ripple effect of integrity lived in your workplace, the legacy of faith quietly shaping your children, your friends, your community. Perhaps you remember Sarah, whose constant anxiety was replaced step by step with trust that felt like a warm blanket on a cold morning, or James, who risked integrity at his own cost and discovered a foundation solid enough to outlast any storm, or Maria, who turned grief into hospitality, her suffering woven with hope. The transformation was never sudden or effortless, but it was real, and it began and continued with a simple, courageous act, choosing to seek and then to act on God's wisdom. Imagine now this journey as your own. Every challenge you face, every choice you make, stands as an intersection, with folly leading nowhere and wisdom lighting a sure path, no matter how steep. Imagine your deepest wounds and hardest conflicts no longer dictating your direction, but being reshaped by ancient truths that celebrate patience, honor, and compassionate listening. At this very intersection, I want to invite you to take the next step, practically, courageously, spiritually. Here are 4 invitations, each as real as the wisdom of Proverbs itself. First, begin your morning with a proverb, a single verse pondered and prayed as the compass for your day. When you begin to do this, you'll notice small shifts, a kinder reply, a quiet inner check, a peace that resists chaos. Second, seek out one person to walk this journey of wisdom with you, a friend, spouse, mentor, or group. When you begin to process life's crossroads together, wisdom multiplies. Accountability becomes anchor. You don't have to travel alone. Third, look for opportunities today to practice one principle from Proverbs, whether it's honesty in a tiny moment, a gentle answer when frustration rises, or generosity where it hurts just a little. When you begin small, you open the door for God to move big. Fourth, reflect at the end of your week. Ask God, where did I listen for your wisdom and where did I resist? What are you teaching me? When you begin to reflect, you invite God's gentle correction and loving encouragement. These are invitations, not burdens. Each one is fertile ground for blessing, a harvest of peace, influence, and inner strength that outlasts every season of life. When you begin, expect resistance, but also expect transformation, for you are walking ancient, proven paths where countless have gone before. This is how spiritual wisdom becomes lived reality. But wisdom is rarely just personal. When you live it, you become a living testimony, your story a living proverb, a light for friends, family, and strangers seeking direction in their own deserts. Community thrives and is healed when one by one people let go of pride and let the Spirit of God shine through their choices. Imagine your small group, your church, your family becoming a haven for wisdom seekers, a space where failures are not hidden, but transformed, where victories are not hoarded but shared, where the next generation rises on the shoulders of those who chose God's way. So I invite you, share your story. How has God already revealed His wisdom in your life? What proverb has taken root in your experience, transforming a shadow into a patch of sunlight? Comment below. Your words might be someone else's turning point. If you've been moved by this journey, or see its value for a friend, share this video as a seed sown into another heart. God's wisdom multiplies not when hoarded, but when given away. Here's a question to stir your reflection and foster this community of wisdom. What is the one piece of wisdom from Proverbs that has most challenged or changed you? How did it come alive in your real, imperfect story? I would love to read your testimony below. And don't let the journey stop here. Next week, we'll unlock the deeper mysteries of God's wisdom, going beyond Proverbs to see how these seeds blossom in the teachings of Jesus and the apostles. The story continues, and I promise even greater treasures await. As we close, let these words echo in your heart, the unforgettable phrase the entire book of Proverbs pivots upon, and the final call from the Father's heart to yours. Wisdom is supreme. Therefore, get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding. Proverbs 4:7. Wisdom is calling. Will you answer?